Welcome to the Housing Hangout, everyone. If you've been with us, welcome back. On this channel, we talk about anything and everything real estate and lending related.
And
I got
lending.
you, Sam. And lending. We got you. Man, this episode's going to be super fun. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be exposing the good, the bad, and the ugly of homeowners associations, which is absolutely mind-boggling because no one really talks about this, Sam.
Yeah, no one does. And by the way, at the end of this video, we've got some clips that are going to blow your mind. They're absolutely hilarious. You got to stay tuned for those. But one question mark, and I've purposely waited until this show to ask you this because I actually really, truly don't know the difference. But what is the difference between an HOA and a POA? I know what an HOA is. It's a homeowners association. But what is a POA?
Yeah. Okay, so POA stands for Property Owners Association. There is a big difference. I'm gonna just take a step back really quick. So I wanna let everyone know that the reason why we're doing this show is, according to HOA-USA.com, I just looked it up. There's over 370,000 HOAs in the United States right now, which 75 million people or more fall under an HOA, which they're claiming is approximately a third.
That's a staggering number. Staggering number.
Right. And dude, it's crazy. None of us even talk about it. Even on the real estate side, HOA stands for Homeowners Association. POA is Property Owners Association. The biggest difference is the scope on the area. There's also less control over individual properties with a POA, Property Owners Association, and HOAs have more control over the individual real estate itself. So in a Property Owners Association, oftentimes they're governed by a company, and they can oversee mass areas with multiple pools. Actually, I even read that there's some towns that are completely controlled. The entire town is a POA. And so it's the scope of the area is the biggest difference between an HOA and a POA.
So basically, like my community here, we've got a lot of parks and trails and stuff like that. So I do pay a fee every month, right? But the HOA, for example, I just got solar on my house. I didn't have to ask permission for that. When I painted my house, I didn't have to ask permission for that. If I leave my trash cans out, no one's going to come bother me. So there's nobody controlling my house and my property. And that kind of pisses me off sometimes because some of my neighbors have high weeds and this is kind of a nice neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's nice because there's nobody breathing down my neck versus what you're saying. A HOA is the type that will like tell you what color you can paint your house and monitor how long you leave out your trash cans and stuff like that.
And I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But yes, you're absolutely right. The fees are typically higher in an HOA. And that's due to excuse me, and that's due to control and management. And then the HOA oversees typically same property type. So an HOA might be all townhomes or all single family residences, where a POA may include businesses, townhomes, condos. You may have seen like where there's like businesses down below and then condos up above in a mixed use community. That will probably more than likely be a POA.
So what do you live in, Mark? HOA, POA?
Man, all right, so full disclaimer. I'm actually the HOA president,
the head Karen
of my voluntary HOA, right? But I promise you, man, every single one of my neighbors is absolutely amazing. We don't bother anybody, but everyone,
I set you up.
I mean, there's no reason to. Yeah, everyone's super cool. So the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm going to talk about the three major good things that come with an HOA. And obviously, this first one's going to be obvious. Stable property values. So when you walk into a neighborhood and you're looking for a house, people often forget that you're not just buying the house, you're also accumulating the neighborhood or the community that house is in as well. And so the fact that an HOA will keep neighbors' lawns at bay. They don't allow certain things like 10 cars parked in the front yard. A lot of these things keep the desirability of an HOA, the desirability of a neighborhood up. And so it stabilizes the property
Okay.
values. But the last thing I want to talk to you, number three, is safety. A lot of people will buy uh, a property inside of an HOA because it may be guard gated, or it just has electric gates in the front. Or I don't know, Sam, have you ever seen those communities where the dudes are cruising around in golf carts?
Yep, I
And
have. Take a
yeah.
look around, ask the neighbor how the HOAs are, okay? Because you could get yourself into Karen land for sure.
Oh man, it
And we're
is
gonna get into
so
that. We're gonna show you
important.
Karen land in a minute, so make sure you
We're
stay tuned for
totally
that.
gonna show
Yeah.
you Karen Land later. I'm so excited, man.
Yeah.
Like for later in the show, this is gonna be amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's really important. If you're looking at buying a place that has an HOA, read the bylaws and the restrictions because some of them aren't bad, but some of them are way over the top absurd. So we talked about the good. Now let's talk about the bad. All right. The bad is number one, there's rules. We
Right.
live in the land of the free.
Right.
People don't like to be told what to do, and unfortunately, there's rules in an HOA or a POA. One of the rules that I've seen in several of the HOAs out here is they put a limit on how many rentals can be in a particular HOA. And I actually think that that's a good thing if you're going to live in an HOA because I think home ownership is absolutely important and it's the cornerstone of every community. If you have, there's some renters out there that just don't care because it's not their home.
There's
And
also
so,
the Airbnb factor, right? That's been
short-term hosting.
widely
Yep.
restricted in most communities, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think reeling all that stuff in, it can be a good thing, but they are rules. And
Right.
so that's one. That's one of the cons. Okay, the second con is dues and fees. We kind of touched base on this. Dues can vary from a couple $100 a year to a couple $1,000s a month from what I've seen. And Sam, you were kind of telling me some of the HOA fees over in Vegas, and they're pretty
Yep. There's a
extensive.
couple of towers here. I mean, mind you, you get a lot of bang for your buck, right? Like there's a couple of towers on the strip where there's
Yeah.
one in particular called the MGM Signature, which is right behind the MGM Hotel, and you get access to basically the entire casino, 7 pools, the lazy river, all the gyms, all the restaurants, all the theaters, all of that, right? But the HOA fee is like 2 grand. And that brings me to another
Jesus,
point.
man.
Yeah. I mean, and that actually, that's something that the bank will even look at when they're financing a deal for you. Like if you want to buy a condo or a single family, they're going to look at how much that HOA fee and determine if you can afford the home. That HOA fee will factor into your debt to income. Okay. So that's something to
So I was
consider.
actually going to ask that earlier. So when you pre-approve somebody, and whether that's in Vegas or here or wherever, do you specify, hey, you're pre-approved for 400,000, but this is for a single family home that's not in an HOA? Or how does that work,
Right.
Sam? I mean,
So,
because
I
you have to
mean,
factor in the HOA fees,
right. So
right?
most loan officers, they don't know what home you're going to buy yet, right? So they're using like a
Right.
guesstimate of what a standard HOA fee is, probably putting a couple of $100 in there, but that could end up being a problem. Like let's say you're pre-approved for a $500,000 home and
Right.
the loan officer guessed, about 250 for an HOA fee, which is about, a rough standard. And you end up
Yep.
buying a home with $1,000 HOA fee. Well, all of a sudden you might not qualify for that home. So that's definitely something you want to consider before you make an offer on that home. Make sure you call your loan officer about that. Another thing people should know when they're buying properties with an HOA, I mean, single families have HOAs, but then there's also condos, and a lot of people want to buy condos, right? When you're buying a condo, the HOA plays a big part of your loan, right? So the bank's going to well, actually, during the loan process, they're going to ask for a condo questionnaire, and that's something you have to pay for. That's an additional cost. Now,
What does that typically cost?
right. Some HOAs will give it to you for free, but some of them will cost, the standard fee is about $200, but I've seen them cost as
Okay.
much as 700. Okay. And that's a cost that most people aren't even aware of. So you're going to pay for your appraisal. And all of a sudden you're going to get a call from your loan officer that's going to say, hey, we got to buy a condo questionnaire for that community. And it costs $700. So there might be an extra
Jesus,
cost.
man.
Yeah. That's a crazy, and it's just paper, right? It's just budgets and stuff like that. So they're going to order this
Just
condo
seems
questionnaire.
excessive.
Right.
Yeah.
And in that questionnaire, there's going to be a few things, right? The bank's going to look at the health of the HOA, right? Like, what's the budget? Do they have any money, right? I recently tried to
Right.
finance a company. Well, I didn't try. I mean, I did my homework before we even got into the purchase, but the customer called me about a property, and I found out that property had no insurance. Like the HOA was so broke they couldn't buy fire insurance. So I
So
couldn't
what
finance
happens
it.
to the loan at that
Well,
point?
there was no loan. We never got into the deal, but good thing I did my due diligence ahead of time. I told the client, I said, like, we can't do a deal on this property because there's no insurance. The HOA is broke, right? So if there's a fire, the bank's going to be out their money. So it was no deal on that one. But other things they're going to look for is like, are people paying their HOA fees, right? We talked about $2,000 HOA fees.
Yeah.
And in some of these buildings, they have high delinquency rates on those HOA fees, right? People aren't paying them. There's 20, 30% of the people that are behind. The bank's going to look at that too and say, hey, this HOA is going to go broke because people aren't paying their fees. So that's another factor. And then there might be litigation, right? And some of the litigation has to do with construction defects. So some of these buildings have problems. And the HOA is suing the developer because, like, for whatever reason, right? The foundation's cracking, the windows are leaking, whatever it is. And if the bank finds out about that, that's going to be another
quick question.
problem.
So if the HOA is suing the developer, I mean, that can get caught up in court for years.
For years and years. And I know of some buildings.
So what happens to someone that's trying to buy or sell in a condominium community that's in litigation?
Well, I mean, there are investors out there who will buy those loans, okay? But this comes back to what we talked about in the last episode. I mean, buyers really have to choose the right loan officer and get the information on the condo building they want to buy before they get into that transaction, okay? Because if your loan officer is just like, yeah, I can do it, that's not good enough. You want to make sure you ask that loan officer, has anyone in your company or yourself financed that specific project before, okay? Because if they just you're going to get into a deal, and that condo questionnaire is going to come in, and the bank's going to pull the plug. So it can still be done, but it's got to be through like different like portfolio loans and stuff like that, and there will be a cost to it. The rate will be a little bit higher.
Moving on, Sam. We talked about rules and restrictions, and then dues and fees for the cons. I'd like to talk about the next one, which is the biggest one, and most people aren't aware of this. An HOA can actually impose liens on your property that then can in turn turn into foreclosure.
Right.
Were you aware of that?
I was. And as a matter of fact, the HOA has more power to foreclose on you than the bank.
This is absolutely crazy. I mean, HOAs, they're worse than the mafia, man.
Right.
They'll go in and just take all your stuff. Right. It's crazy.
I mean, there's stories out there where they're foreclosing on people who owe them $1,000.
And again, we're going to remind you guys, just give us a few more minutes. We're going to show you some videos and share with you some of the most absolutely absurd HOA stories we've ever heard of, at least for me, in my entire real estate career. And then last but not least, and this is the one I think that's the most common, is mismanagement. We have a lot of board members out there that have some sort of God complex, and they think that they have more rights to your property than yours. They start spending money that's not theirs, mismanagement of money and funds. It happens.
Some people can't handle the power, and you end up getting into like Karen land. You know what I mean?
Karen land. You got those power trips.
Ask the neighbors before you buy a house.
All right, man. I'm so excited to get into this. Let's get into these HOA horror stories.
Let's get into it. By the way, if you haven't done so already, now's the perfect time to hit that subscribe button below. Let's switch screens and get into these stories. Here we go.
A homeowner trying to beautify his property and his neighborhood by planting trees has run afoul of a homeowners association.
They fined him $5,000. West 2's Dan Billow reports he was fined $100 a day because his trees were about...
Wait, are you looking at that tree right there?
I can't tell if that's a tree or a shrub, bro.
Well, let's see what he thinks about that tree.
3 feet too short.
I love these trees. I have to take the 2 trees up in 20 days, and they won't fine me $5,000.
The poor guy, man. He loves that broken down tree, man. He just loves that thing.
Dude, the way he looks down at his trees, man, it's just he's just so emotionally attached to these things, man.
But $100 a day, $5,000. I will say though, at least they're giving them the opportunity to pull that thing before they charge them $5,000, which some HOAs wouldn't do. So.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, so he didn't get fined the $5,000
he got fined,
yet,
but they gave him like an out. Like if you.
Okay, like a window,
right,
a window to redeem himself, right?
So he got a redemption window.
Okay, dude. Look at that face. He's so bummed right now, man. He has nurtured these little tree shrubs.
Dude, he didn't get rid of that tree. That tree's in his house. That tree's like in a pot in the living room.
Dude, you're right, man. It's just replanted. There's no way he's parting with his tree.
All right, let's keep going.
All right, next, let's
The
go.
fourth day of our vacation, we get a bunch of calls and emails from neighbors sending us pictures that my car has been booted in the driveway.
And not just one wheel, but two. A bright orange sticker slapped to the window.
It said why it got booted, at what time, who to call, and how much the fine is, which is $68.
Wait a minute. Her car is in her driveway, and it got booted. Double boot.
For $68.
They straight up double booted her car for $68.
$68. And it was because I think she had parked it on the street, and you need like a visitor permit to park on the street. So this is one of those HOAs that's controlling who can park where, and you know how many cars you can have in your driveway. I mean, that's actually a pretty common one with HOAs. Something you got to look up.
Oh my god!
But like the level
68
of like,
double boot, man.
Right, like
for
it wasn't
$68.
It was $60, which is
okay.
Pretty absurd. All right, this next one is this. It's so absurd that even this young man who can't be older than 10 years old thinks it's ridiculous.
$68. Okay, go ahead.
I'm still worried a little. I'm still a little worried because I just think it's gonna get all stolen, you know?
This sheet of paper is the cause for the concern. A list left earlier this week by Homeowners Association of Auburn Greens that mandates leaving garage doors up from 8 to 4 Monday through Friday.
I don't know. Okay, wait. Did you just hear that?
No, Sam. Let me add context to this.
Oh my God.
I read about this, man. So this is an HOA in California that found that there was somebody in this community that had someone living in the garage. And then they secretly had a vote, I think it was like in the middle of the night or something, that said, starting on this particular day, everybody in the entire community needed to keep their garage doors open from 8 a.m. to 4 Monday through Friday so that they can ensure that no one's living in the garages.
I mean, the absurdity of like the level of punishment, like...
Bro,
like I can't even think of an example of that. It's like one person does something, therefore the entire country needs to do it differently from now on.
What if you got like bikes and Segways and skateboards and cool stuff in there?
Yeah.
I mean,
I do in my garage. You know what I'm saying?
You have a Segway? You have a Segway?
I do not have a Segway, but I do have a gym in my garage. And I do have skateboards and snowboards. No rollerblades and no Segways in my garage.
All cool stuff that you don't want stolen, for sure. God, all right, let's go next. These
he kind of reminds me of me a little bit, even though he's nothing like me, but just because he's a young guy, like struggling with an HOA, and I have a story about that too.
8 to 4 Monday through Friday.
Out of nowhere, I get 29 citations. Honestly, guys, you aren't gonna believe how petty these loser neighbors are. They said they were taking pictures for the HOA. This fence right here is what they were taking pictures of. And I just got a $150 fine because it wasn't approved. It's the same damn fence as the other one. This guy's hypocritical. He used to have a straight pipe GTO that would basically wake everyone up. No one complained about it because I thought it was cool. And you know, apparently now my truck's too loud for him. It's too loud for me to just start it up. No matter what time of the day, he'll complain.
I'm trying to sleep.
It's too loud?
Where's my bedroom there?
Okay, so this is a young guy, right? Duramax diesel, like living the dream. You know, he thought
dude,
the
look
guy
at
across
him.
the street, his GTO was cool. And that same guy now is like totally all over him because he's probably jealous of his Duramax. You know what I mean? So any time of the day he cranks that thing, they're all over him. 26 citations in one shot. Boom.
No, he said 29,
29.
Bro. Like, yeah, from the fence to the Duramax diesel. And man, I can relate to this guy. Being a car guy, I got a couple hot rods, man. And but I try to be mindful of my neighbors.
Everybody's got a truck like that. You know what I mean?
Where we live here in Texas, everyone's got a Duramax diesel, man. You just live with it.
I mean, he's really not being too obscene. All right, this next guy right here, this guy's my favorite guy of the whole video. Let's check him out.
The HOA sends another message with a $3,000 fine. They're not going to like my answer.
I mean, this is a guy who's never even heard of an HOA before. Okay. He's like, a what?
Dude, okay. So hold on. Pause the video. I'm looking in his backyard. He does not look like he's living in an HOA type community. The dude lives in the middle of Sherwood Forest.
He totally doesn't. And I kind of saw a little bit more of this video, and it's a giant community with like acres of land. Like each home has like acres, and the whole backdrop is a massive forest.
So we received a note that they're going to turn us in to the HOA because we left our barn door open. And then also, we didn't bring our garbage can up to the road within like 2 or 3 days. Like, I've never heard of some of this stuff, but check out how this is worded when it came to us. Titled HOA Violations. Eric, several of us in the HOA are unhappy with the attention your YouTube, Facebook page is drawing. We do not have a rule against what you are doing on social media, yet we will be reporting every violation we see, no matter how minor, until your family finds it financially better to move.
Okay, wait, did you just hear that?
Oh my God, dude. What is it? That's like, you mentioned what, extortion before?
That's like a threat, dude. Like,
what?
That's like a threat. Like, it's like,
dude, it's straight up threatening.
We're
going to
report
right,
every single thing you do from now on until you decide.
Look at this.
Until you and your family moves. Like,
oh my God, man,
serious?
It's a threat.
It's
a threat and a promise.
Let's keep
I don't
going.
know what the difference is, but
unbelievable.
Proceed.
So the subject of the email is tall grass violation. It reads, Eric, we are not sure if you have heard from Margaret yet. I wanted to inform you that we are continuing to see issues over at your property and the neighborhood is concerned. We have received another complaint from Margaret due to the long grass hanging across your driveway.
Okay, so Margaret is obviously Karen. Okay.
I was just gonna say,
yeah.
Dude, Margaret is a community Karen for
Absolutely.
sure.
We recommend it be corrected by October 15th, or you could receive a $1,000 fine. Dead bush HOA violation. Eric, we have submitted another complaint to Margaret. We noticed your smaller bushes over near the tree line are dead, and this is against HOA policy. You have 3 bushes that need to be replaced. 3 brown dead bushes that have been sitting there for months is ridiculous.
Okay, she literally says in the email, like, this is ridiculous.
So, Sam, I'm just using some context clues here, too. It looks like it's fall.
Totally.
I'm pretty sure everything turns brown in the fall.
It looks like there's a lot of leaf foliage on the ground there.
There's so much foliage on the floor right now. Like, I'm surprised Karen is giving him a hard time about the dead bush. Is he going to show the bushes?
Let's check it out.
The fine for upkeep bushes is $1,000 per bush. Yeah, we'll clean it up all right. We're going to clean up just for you, and you're not going to like it. And here's what we got, folks. She picked me up some spray paint.
Take that,
So,
Margaret.
trees already dead. They want them to not look dead. They want to play games. We're going to paint these. HOA, this is for you. We got a
Here you go, Margaret.
red tree or a brown tree. Now we're going to have a green tree. See what Margaret thinks about this. Well, here we go, my friends.
That,
we just finished up. Got it painted. How does that look, Margaret?
Bro, dude, the guy's a legend.
I mean, he's a legend, but he's going to lose that fight. He's going to lose.
Is he going to lose his house over the 3 dead bushes?
I mean, if he doesn't pay attention to those fines. I mean, that was cool, and that might even be worth getting a fine just to be able to film that video.
Dude, that guy was my hero, though, for sure.
He was my hero. He was the greatest. I'm definitely subscribing to his channel.
Sam, I had a lot of fun, man. This is a great episode. I hope that, people got some value.
Yeah, hey, listen, we told you the good, bad, the ugly. We told you a little bit about condo buying. We showed you some fun videos. We told you what to look out for HOAs. We told you how to protect yourself against HOAs and what's the difference between an HOA and a POA. I'm going to show a video on the screen of the first time buyer show we did last week. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button below. We'll be back to you guys in a few days with some more content.
Dude, that's it for me too, man. I'm out.